Welcome back, everybody. Messy desk is a sign of a creative mind. I have a little bit of a project going on, and I am sorting out my palette, which is something that I do for larger projects, and it'll make itself more clear as I proceed. Lots of different ephemera here from contemporary and vintage magazines, some stamps. I have a blue palette going on, a bit of a gray palette, and of course a pink palette. I find I can't not stay away from the color pink. I really love the color pink. The color pink will be my focal points color. This project is based on an image. I'm not going to tell you too much about the image or the person in the image. If you guess who the person is, let me know in comments. I'm not going to tell you too much about it. It's just a simple Xerox image, and I am planning again on using pink for our focal point, and we have a lot of water imagery going on here, so I have some blues and some whites going on too. I like to work with shapes, and I will actually draw them out. It's kind of hard to see here, but I used a colored pencil to draw out where I want to cut. And I like to work with the face first because the face is the focal point for most every picture. Sometimes it's not, but most of the time, and in this case it is, there's a lot going on. So I'm just going to start working with that first, and I want to be cognizant of my light colors, dark colors, and how colors are going to look side by side. So I did some work earlier today sorting out my palette, sorting everything off to the side, what's going to look good, what's not going to look good. I think I have enough to start with. I'm using a lot of Architectural Digest magazines and an old movie magazine also from like the 1970s. So again, more vintage here and there, a lot of rainbow. I'm just going to go ahead, dive in, get started, and you can join me for the ride. There are many things going on right now with just a simple cut, which is the forehead of our subject. I grabbed some pink beige looking tones. This is where the light source is coming on, so I want this to be bright. I want a lot of contrast in this collage, and I want to represent it by using light colors compared to dark. So I went ahead and I'm playing with this template that I'm creating, and I want to make sure that this highlight, maybe a little difficult to see against the gray tones of the copy, but we have this light source beaming down this way along with a little bit of a design. I like how it's coming out, so I'm going to go ahead and commit to this. And for this technique, like I have shared before, if you're new to the channel, I will share it again. I cut out the template. I have my back of my collage here, and I simply use some packing tape, some good quality packing tape, and I go ahead and secure it that way to the back of my template. Now, this process tends to get actually, it gets a little more difficult as I proceed because I'm going to be building layers on the back and using tape, and the more I do that, I have to cut through it and it can get a little tedious. So it's just something to think about if you've never done this before. That's how this technique works for me. So I got this part down. I'm pleased with the way it looks, and now I want to work on these eyes. They are very important when we are determining who we are identifying here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that cut. And of course, because we put down that other pink paper first, I'm going to have to contend with that and cut through that as well, not just the copy paper itself. But we only have the one piece right now that we're having to deal with, so I am cutting through, not too much, and there's no tape yet securing all of that. I've run into this problem before when I've done other videos of images like this. One of them was the day I did one of David Bowie, I did one of Jeff Beck. That's going to give you a hint on who this is, sort of. A little bit of a hint if you're a big rock and roll fan. Just gave you a big hint right there. But I ran into that same problem. I'm cutting through layers of paper as well as my template and that tape. But this looks like it should be successful. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Yeah, that was nice. That was nice and successful. So see, this is where the pink paper was in back of the Xerox paper. So that's where you start getting, it starts getting a little messy. Okay, that looks good. I'm also going to go ahead and cut this free also, because I'm going to be using the same color here as here beneath the eyebrows. Same kind of cut, just cutting along the image, which isn't super easy to see because of the Xerox. It's a pretty good copy. The resolution was pretty good, but it's still a little fuzzy to see. That's where I go ahead and I draw in with a colored pencil where I want my cut to go in accordance with the image. So I'm starting with the more detailed images first. It just works easier for me that way. I want to cut this away too. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. It's a little messy, a little bit of some loose paper here. Should be okay. I'm just going to clean it up a bit. Okay, that does not look bad at all. Now I want to think about the color that I want to put there, a shadow underneath our eyebrows. And I have lots of different pinks again that I am working with. And I want to think about them. I want it to be a fairly dark pink. I thought about this and I could use this. So I'm going to go back to time lapse and do a little bit more experimenting and thinking on this. Still have to stay cognizant of that light source. Light source seems to be hitting this side of the image more so where there's a bit more shadow going on here. So I chose a pink for this eyelid that was much lighter than this one. It was from the same image, just two different pinks. Unfortunately, I cut it out. But I went ahead and used the lighter pink on this side and the darker pink from that same pink image to create that look of light. I am not a painter. I obviously studied color theory in school, but it's something that really is natural for everybody. So if you didn't go to art school and you're watching this channel, I invite you to try anyway, because art is really something you get better at. School gives you the opportunity to see what kind of talent you have, but it's really working through these little problems that you discover what you do know. And most of what we know is innate, and we simply do it, and we will do what feels comfortable. I'm saving the majority of these smaller pieces just in case from the palette, in case I need to return to them. Got a lot of small details going on here. and we're taping things in the back, but I'm taping in an area that I know I probably won't be cutting again. So that forehead area, I'm not going to be cutting anymore there, and I know this area is the forehead, so I'm being a little bit more liberal with my tape and piling it up and making sure everything is secure, whereas below this area, I know I'm going to be cutting, so not as much tape, and I'm trying to just use enough of the ephemera, the little bits of paper, to cover that area that I know I want to be colored in. So next we have the eyelashes. Those are very important, and I need to cut through my ephemera along the line of my new eyelid. And then I'm going to cut below. It shouldn't be too difficult because, ooh, well, it is difficult. Well, it shouldn't be too difficult because I don't have too much below it. But now we're getting into detail, so things are starting to rip a little bit, and I need to be aware of that, only because I want to maintain my template, because it's my guide. Okay, I think we got the eyelash free. Yeah, it's a little messy here. I'm going to have to do a little bit of cleanup. When you're cutting through 2 sheets of paper, things like this will happen. It's going to get snagged, and it just is. It's just going to happen. I try to be careful to avoid that because I want to maintain my template. It looks like it's maintained pretty well here, and this is where my eyelash is going to go. And since I'm going to be doing the same thing over here, I'm going to go ahead and do another cut. I like doing these highly detailed areas first because I feel more fresh when I'm doing it, and it's just a little bit easier in the beginning than after everything has been taped on. And looks like we did okay with that. Yeah, there's the eyelash. That's where I want the eyelash to go. There is a little bit of snag here with this paper, the copy paper that I used. Okay, I think I got it for the most part free. Okay, that hopefully will work. Looks like it will. I'm just checking it right now to make sure there aren't any little snags or anything that are going to make a mess and take away from the image. I'm going to cut a little bit more here. This technique is, for me, it's easier than other techniques I've tried, but I really want to make sure everything is neat and clean, that we have nice neat edges. Okay. All right, let's proceed. I did a lot of work off camera, as I will share with you. Probably almost I would say easily an hour. And I make adjustments as I go along. I see what kind of ephemera I have, what goes well with what color, and creates the most contrast, the most complementary contrasts as possible. And it is not always easy. I ask myself if this is something I want to continue with, or do I abort the mission? Which is it? I'm going to continue for now. I know it's taking on maybe an appearance I don't want it to take, but I don't find it necessarily a bad thing. The image I'm using is a person, of course, but I can take artistic liberty with it and see where it leads. I don't think there's any harm in that, but there just is so much going on. And then the concern about making sure there's enough contrast, I had to add a little bit here. And I also I wanted to have a realistic look to it, but at the same time, I know that that's completely impossible to give it pure realism, and it's art, so I can play with it as I see fit and what works. Usually that's the direction my collages take me in. In any case, noses and eyes and lips are small, and there's a lot of delicate cutting going on there. I like the cutting. I like the way it came out. The nose, I was really having a tough time with, and I'm okay with the nose right now. And the ear is going to be fun next, also. I'm okay with it. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to trudge through, see what happens next. I place my ephemera here. I have my template here. And I just kind of shift it around to the way I like it. How does that look? That looks pretty good. I think I want to do that. A little bit of drafting tape to hold it in place and make sure it doesn't rip. Here is the ephemera. I can trim a little bit more because I'm going to be cutting into it next, probably pretty soon. And I don't want to give myself more work than I have to. Get some tape here. Don't need a lot of the packing tape, just enough to keep it in place. Here we go. So that's fairly sturdy. Let's get this tape out of the way. Alrighty. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So here is the next part of the challenge. I want to cut this area here. I'm playing right now. I'm playing with this image of ephemera. I was drawn to the pink on here, but I'm actually now looking at the lighter side of it for the next part of his neck. So I thought about, oh, we'll have this pink right here. That looks great, and it does. It looks okay. But there's more contrast if I add a little bit of those lines and the white and the pink going on. That looks much better. I like that a lot more. So once I like it, I'm going to secure it, and then I can tape it down. So securing it right now by means of this little bit of drafting tape that I've used for many collages in the last couple of days, actually. Okay, here is where I want to do my cut. Should be safe enough to do a nice big chunky cut right here. And I'm going to hang on to this because I still want to use this. I may want to use other portions of this ephemera in other parts of this collage. Okay, and even a little bit up here. And I'm just setting them all off to the side before I secure it with my packing tape. It's a fairly big piece, and since I know, again, I'm not going to be doing any cutting up here, I can freely put this tape right here. Because now we're working on the top portion of, we're taping on the top portion up here on the face that's already been done. It's finished. I'm not going to be doing any more to it. So let's see. We want to now think about, oh, you know what? He has hair here, doesn't he? I'm going to cut again because I know there's really nothing there. And I'm going to cut here kind of blindly because I wasn't intending to do this part. I have the ear going on. The ear's going to, I'm probably going to do this ear off camera because it's going to be gnarly. And it's just sometimes it's a little more challenging, and it's hard to talk through because I might talk and I might say a bad word. Oh boy. Okay, so let me get this bit here. This was the hair, and see, I didn't cut part of it. That's all right. I just come back and cut, and I'm being a very naughty collagist right now. My X-Acto blade broke, and I'm kind of in a zone right now, and I don't want to stop, but I need to change this blade, and I need to do it very soon. Like after I stop the camera, I really need to change this blade because I'm going to run the risk of not getting really clean cuts, and stuff like this is going to happen, little snags that don't look good. Okay, that one actually doesn't look too bad. What I might do, when you have a little snag like this, it creates something that just isn't pleasant, and you want to remove it. It's kind of like just shaving it off, and I use the edge of the X-Acto blade. I want to share the dangers of what I was just doing. I was cutting away some excess on the back, again, to make my job easier when I do initial cutting, especially for these detailed areas like the ear. And I thought, oh yeah, I got this part here and I don't need this and I don't need this, so I'm just going to cut away that. I did that last time in time lapse and I didn't really share it, but if I had done that, I'm going to be removing this part, and I didn't want to do that. So fortunately, I learned from my little error yesterday, and I did not proceed with cutting away. I cut away excess when I am with absolute certainty I know that it does not belong there. Now this is really loose. Also looking behind this little flap of paper, which is super loose, is a space. So I'm going to actually tape this down again to make sure we don't lose that, because that's a very intricate part of the piece. It's the neck area that I kind of added on at the last moment. I thought it was going to be more of his hair, but it's really just adds shadow for the neck. So I didn't want to lose this piece, but we're going to go ahead and work with the ear now. What makes this technique so challenging is that you are actually cutting into space that you've already created. You've already laid down this ephemera. You like the way it looks. You're happy with it. But then you have to cut into it again because you want to proceed. You want to finish the job. So when I was cutting through this ear, I was actually cutting through this part that I've already done. And that's when it gets tough, because you run the risk of ripping, scrunching, manipulating the paper in a way that isn't going to be pleasant. And it's a craftsmanship issue. And that's just the way it is. Like I said, this technique is not for everybody. Sometimes I wonder if it's for me, and I'm the one that I feel benefits the most from it, because heck, that's how I figured it out. So I'm going to keep going back to time lapse. I just wanted to share that with you, because this technique is great for intricacy and it's great for the exactness of the image. It's easy for me to do it from the back of the paper than tracing it out, cutting it, and then pasting it back on. That works also, but it takes longer, and I never felt I was accurate enough. So just wanted to share that with you, and if I think of anything else while I'm in time lapse, I will stop and let you know. When choosing your colors, you want them to help you out. If you have a gradient going on, I wanted part of the ear to be dark to delineate it from this lighter space, and I also wanted it to be somewhat on the bright side to catch some of that light source. And you can get lucky, and you can see there are gradients everywhere you look in imagery, so hanging on to this, but use it to your advantage, because one thing is that it keeps the cutting to a minimum, and sometimes it just looks better. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do next, which is just finishing cutting out the hair. Not terribly intricate, except for this hairline area right here. That's going to be a little tricky. And I treat it like I would my vintage when I'm working with vintage paper. Also, I like to tackle the area that's most challenging first, although this shouldn't take too long, famous last words. Just going along the forehead, and I treat it like vintage paper. I go slow. I press down with my other hand as I make the cut to keep everything taut and in place. Headed into that intricate area, doing the best I can. Going slow, pause. I know I stopped here, so I'm going to pick up again. Press the blade into that area. Go slow. Coming back through here. Teeny tiny little area. These are the parts that make it a little challenging. And now we're going back over that ear we just finished. Okay, we should be good. You get these little tiny eensy weensy scraps of paper with this process also. And that can be frustrating, especially if I'm not a neat freak, but most artists tend to be very concerned about craftsmanship as they work. It's a good habit to get into. And we're just going to finish his hair. Fortunately, I don't think there's too much paper or tape. Actually, there is tape on the back here. This is going to be a taped area, so hopefully I didn't cut through tape that was binding everything in place. So everything is still in place. Hopefully it remains that way. Take off the hair. We have that layer from the forehead, which should be easy enough to remove. Yes, that was nice, just like surgery. And here's the other part of the hairline. That came out very nice. Okay, that was a nice clean cut. Why? Because honestly, I didn't have a lot of paper going on. I didn't have a lot of tape going on. So it's just way easier to work with. Now, I was looking at this very dark blue, this indigo, for a possibility, or this very, very dark purple. This is probably more indigo than this. Indigo is almost black, just like a wonderful violet. So I'm going to slip this in here and see how it looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good because it matches with the eyebrows that I have going on. So yeah, that should be good. So we're going to go with that. Doesn't have to be anything fancy in regards to making sure we don't need any imagery in there. We just need this beautiful indigo. And we'll cut that out just enough for the back. It doesn't have to be the exact shape because that would make you crazy. Believe me, I've done that before, and that's why I'm doing this crazy technique and making myself crazy with that. I also went ahead and added a little bit of masking tape just to keep everything in place. And because it was flapping around quite a bit. So you see, we only have to cover this area. I don't want it like this because that just means I have to cut through this. I don't really want to have to do that if I can help it. So I'm measuring, and I know there's no special design element that I want to capture here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut about this much off and save that piece because I might need more indigo eventually. It works really well for the areas that are dark. Okay. I didn't cut enough, actually, I think. Oh, wait, no, I did. Oh, no, I didn't. There's a little tiny part here. Not a big deal. I'm going to just go ahead and break it up a little bit. I don't like doing this if I can help it, but sometimes you're forced to do it. I just want to make sure everything is spoken for. Okay, there we go. And then we have our main piece here. Get some tape and just secure it down. So the key is, number one, go slow. Number two, not too many layers if you can help it of paper and or tape. And number three, very sharp X-Acto blade and treat it like vintage paper. And you should be okay. Another quick reminder, utilize those highlights in your images. This is a big time highlighted area. There's water splashing and it's reflecting back into the camera. So I grabbed a piece of pink that definitely had a hot spot on it. And it looks like, to me, that it belongs there. So look for that when you're choosing your ephemera and take your time. In time lapse, things look like they go really fast. They do. But I'm actually really sitting here and thinking out my next plot, where I'm going to put what piece where next, and does it fit? See, this would have fit as well because there's a nice highlight going on. I'm definitely going to hang on to this pink image, so there's some really nice highlights, and I can intersperse that pink throughout, just like I've been trying to do with this lighter pink. I'm using this sparingly because it's not very, very interesting, but I use it when I want to promote the highlighted portion of the image. My next concern is going to be the necklace. So here's a better look of the necklace on here. I'm not really sure how to go about doing that. I've even thought about abandoning having a necklace, but I think it kind of needs it. And it's going to be too difficult to hunt through all of my magazines and books to find something that size-wise will fit and look perfect. So I really need to make the necklace. That being said, because I feel a little overwhelmed and not super excited about it, makes me want to move on to another portion of this collage, which I have that luxury of doing. Maybe start working with the blue. I'm looking at this portion of the tub of the water, and I saw on my other, my rough draft here, that I kind of narrowed it out. This is what I did, was I just take a colored pencil and I want to delineate where I want color to go. So it really will only be about 2 pieces, but I also have over here in the tub this section. So I need to be thinking about this section. Will I need to do the same? Another ring around the tub. So something like that. So this is a darker area because we have shadow, and this is much brighter. So I need to start thinking about my blues, and I have a lot of blue going on here. I got some wonderful blue right here, which is related to this wonderful pink. That's also good to use when you are using the same magazine for images, because the color scheme complements each other. They know each other. They're in the same picture frame. They're taking from each other. There are bits of this blue and this pink, so they work with each other better. Just something to think about. You don't have to do that, because I usually mix and match. I like using different ephemera from other sources, not just the one source. A lot of collage artists I see here on YouTube and elsewhere, they use the same source for the entire collage, which is super cool, and I really like it. I'm just one of those folks that I want to mess around with it a little bit. We have a lot of blue going on. We got some light blue. I grabbed some window coverings here. So it's not a really significant part of the image, so I don't need to highlight it too much, but I do want it to look good. And I don't know, this is kind of a grayish area too. I have this larger blue area that looks kind of neat, but I think it's too dark, and it might go good over here. And then I have this blue. I like this. This might work. I really like this blue. And I wanted to use like this crystal look. I have this other Cartier ad that I want to use the diamonds maybe for the dappling of light on the water in the tub. I might want to do that. Not sure, just an idea I had. And again, the more ephemera you have, the more ideas you have, the more fun you're going to have. I really like this rainbow image because we've got a lot of rainbow now going on in the main body. I'm not going to put it here yet though. So we have the blue. I like this blue. I like this blue. Again, it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be a super strong source. This blue is nice and simple. It might work also. It's just something to think about. This is these darker blues, these clay pots from an ad. I'm going to just steal from that. No one will know where it came from. In fact, I'm really liking this blue next to the upper portion of the head here. So I might do that, and I think I'm going to do that. I think we'll work with that. These 2 blues. So I want to cut out here, and I want to cut here, but I also have the little ring, and that ring is pretty light. So this is where the same image might work well. Maybe I don't have to have that ring. This is when I'm like, okay, now I'm getting lazy. As long as it reads blue and it reads light. So let's just go ahead and make those cuts. Now I want to start with the side of the face because it's done. It's permanent for this piece. I do not have any tape I'm going to have to cut through. That's good. And I really need to go slow because lots of detail here. I really want to be careful. So I'm going to begin at the top here. I could almost just cut through here because this part of the tub, which is going to be coming on much later, is going to become an issue. So I'm just going to cut, careful cut along the line of the design I have already created. We're hitting for the eyes and the eyebrows, and headed for the cheek area. I'm gonna pause. Yeah, a lot of little bits of paper here. This is from the Xerox paper, and also from the magazine itself. Keep cutting, keep cutting. We're just gonna cut a little bit further into the arm, which we're not even thinking about right now. And now it looks like it was freed, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the area of the water up along the tub. And let's go ahead and cut that ring area. Set that free. This should come up pretty easily. It does. And this looks like, oh yeah, so we had a bunch of layers going on here. Not way too many layers, those are just the layers that I use for this image. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and okay, good. It's going to move off pretty safely, so I'm going to cut that free. That's not too bad. Possibly could be a little neater, but I'm fairly pleased with it. Let's see. But that's when, exactly here, that's when this technique gets challenging. But I like having the detailed portion done first. It's easier for me. That's how I work with this technique. Might have to do a little bit of cleanup. That's personal preference, up to you. Yeah, a little bit of the eyebrow hair, not hair, but the dark paper. It's kind of hanging off. It should be easy enough. Yeah, I got it off. Looks like it. Okay. And yeah, it kind of overlaps the, just gonna do a little bit more careful slicing. I'm just cleaning it up to make it look sharp. I want it to be a sharp edge to delineate the forehead from the water. Okay. All sorts of little crumbs. And here we are. So the rest of this should be a little bit easier. And here's his water. So I can play with this. I could even have like darker water, but I want to keep it light because this is a very bright area of the tub in the actual image. That looks pretty good. Now I don't have to stay with this same water because now I have to think about this water down here. But for now, this side of the picture, the water should be bright. This side can be a little darker with, the dappling. Well, definitely darker up here and then below. So this looks good. Let's go ahead and commit that. And I'm just gonna cut what I need. So I'm cutting along the edge, flush with the edge, and I'm gonna cut this off too. It doesn't bring anything to the party. We have this darkness, this dark water. I'm going to hang on to this. I might need it for a shadow or something later. Just kind of put it off to the side, and I'll toss the other little pieces. We don't really need those. Okay, so this was the brighter part. I know this is my space. I can put this here. Should look okay, but just to be on the safe side, I always double check. Just make sure. And was this what I wanted? Did I want this? Sometimes if you're not certain, turn it upside down. You might like that better. It doesn't necessarily have to be right side up. But I think this is going to be okay. A little bit of a line going on there naturally in the image, that line. It's not a bad thing. And again, it promotes interest and it doesn't take away from the main image. That looks pretty good. I like that. So since I like that and I want it like this, I'm going to grab my drafting tape. So it will hold it in place for a few moments while I get ready. So here is our piece. Little bit of tape, and I'm taping in an area I know I probably, hopefully, won't have to cut again. And I think we're good. I'm just going to leave it alone. So I was ready to cut here, but look, there's a space there. It's telling me it is working. It is doing its job. and I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to take from it because it means I just have to cover it up again if there's a space. Okay, that looks really good. Let's go ahead and do the other side of the water since we're working in tandem like this. I start with my delicate area first, although this is fortunately not so intricate with cutting. There's no great detail. It's not like that ear, the rest of that ear was. Fortunately, I can see the blue line I drew to help me delineate where I need to cut and where my collage is going to go. I'm abandoning that that ring I thought might be kind of cool. And it just, you can do it. Maybe I should, but And fortunately, there was nothing there. There was nothing taped on the back there. So that was a nice, easy cut. It looks like I cut his hair a little bit too. It doesn't detract from it, so I'm don't need to worry about that. Now I have a lot of nice dark blues. We also have that dark blue we just dealt with. There's also this. That's definitely a water image. Don't have to use a water image, mind you. I mean, you can use other types of blue. It's a collage, so you can really do anything you want with it. And here I'm just turning it on its side and playing with it and shifting it around and trying to see what's going to look best. No. I'm actually going to try a bright. I think the reason why I want to do a brighter blue there is because his hair is dark, and then now he stands out a lot more. The dark looks okay, but it really stands out more that he has a brighter background here. Now remember, here were the clay pots that I thought might work. Let's put those there, see what that looks like. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. And it's dark, but it's still enough contrast that he stands out. I'm going to go with my original plan. Let's put this off to the side. So this is why, again, I like having too much ephemera. Play with it and something really cool will happen, but only if you have enough ephemera. And it's really easy to cut through these magazines, especially like the Architectural Digest, and ignore these smaller ads for things like these beautiful clay urns that I probably wouldn't be able to afford. But grab this because there is something iridescent and beautiful, and even though it's small, it's something like this that you'll want to use in your collage work. It'll make it pop out, and it will, even though it's not the focal point, it will strengthen the focal point, and that's the whole point of what we're doing here. A couple things I wanted to talk about while I was working on this arm. I wanted this collage to have a lot of different spaces of color. I'm trying to do that here. That's a lot of work. That was not easy. That took me quite a bit of time. Again, time-lapse speeds it up for you, which is the whole point. But it does take a little bit of time. Also, making those decisions take time, but that's also the fun part. So it's totally fun for me. Also, really quick, when I'm cutting, like I'm going to be cutting this section off next, I want to make sure it stays intact for me, that I don't set it loose, because I run into that risk. So I'll be cutting right here, and it should stay intact until I'm done cutting. But if I start cutting here, by the time I get to this place, or it's not attached to the Xerox anymore, I might lose the piece. So I always want to make sure I actually begin my next cut along the edge of the collage that's growing out of this image. I don't want to lose this next piece, this next section, because it's guiding me. Again, treating it like vintage paper, holding it down as I cut, still attached. So everything's still attached. I want it to remain attached. I'm going to run into problems with the water here in just a second, though. The water section here, this negative space, that won't come loose because it's still attached to the body. But that is something you want to think about as you're making your cuts. You don't want to lose a portion of the collage, of the template, that you haven't cut yet. Okay. So I'm going to remove this. Almost a perfect. Oh, these are still attached, but not too bad. The other element I wanted to share with you all, once you've done this cut, now this looks like a nice clean cut and it actually is quite clean, but you sometimes run into little tiny bits of paper, little hangers on that were created because of the cutting, because there were so many layers, or maybe there was tape involved, and sometimes edges get ragged and there's just these tiny eensy weensy bits of paper. You see me doing this a lot probably in the time lapse. That's just so I can keep my area clean, but I also want to keep the collage clean, and I want to clean up ragged points as before I set anything else down. So this is actually a very nice clean piece. Want to look for maybe something that's a little darker without any highlight. This looks like it might be good. Also, I want to take into consideration, this is the under portion of the arm right here. And it's important, but again, it's not a focal point. I want to pay attention to it and I want to give it credit where credit's due, but it doesn't have to be anything that stands out. So I'm grabbing this newer piece of ephemera, pink ephemera, and I'm playing with that because I have a lot of it and I can spread the wealth of it. It's kind of in a shadow area, so I can use maybe a darker portion. So the darker portion looks good, and it's all this portion here, and I'm just going to cut that out. So there are a lot of nuances about this technique, especially when you're working with something that is highly detailed. I didn't think that this image was going to be so highly detailed for whatever reason, but it is. It's as detailed as the David Bowie and the Jeff Beck pieces were. For some reason, though, they feel even more detailed than those two did. Okay. Looks like anywhere we go with this piece should be fine. So I can see here I have space and I can just go ahead and probably trim this down and save those pieces. Save your unused pieces. I'm trying to keep my pinks and my blues all together. And commit it. Should be okay if I tape it right there. And I'm trying to be really cognizant of where I'm taping. It feels safe to tape on other ephemera pieces on the back. I don't want to tape too much on the paper that's not been cut yet because I'm going to have to cut it and I don't want to deal with that. Okay, that looks good. I like how that looks. So I'm going to finish with this arm. I have to think about this. I should actually think about before I proceed with the arm. I'm going to at least cut this piece out and then we'll try and find a nice blue that goes with it. A little bit more I have to cut through. Oh, there we go. That's what I was talking about. Guess what I just did? The very thing I was warning everybody against. Now I've lost this piece. I lift this up. I've lost my template. Not cool. It's not terribly difficult because it's easy enough to put back in. And I've done this before, but I really don't want to. So I'm actually going to use some tape here just to try and hold it into place. I actually have a bit of a detail area right next to the face that I have to cut. And I did not want to let go of that guy just yet. So here we go. That's what I was trying to explain. I wasn't explaining it great, but hey, you know, I also like to define by example. So there's an example for you. Okay, there we go. Fortunately, it wasn't a very intricate part. Otherwise, that would have been kind of a bummer. Went with that blue checkered ephemera for the water area, the negative space between the arm and the shoulder, and finished up the arm. This part of the arm was a little bit of a challenge because it's technically underwater and I wanted to give it a pink look, but there's still some blue going on. So that's going to be a challenge for the rest of this piece. Though most of the body is not really submerged in water, I still want to give the effect that water is involved. And I ran into that here working on the left portion of the chest. And in choosing that, I can see that the model has his body kind of at an arc. So this is also at an arc. It gives that feel, that circular feel maybe of what he's doing. That's why I chose this. It is pink and it's bright. It's not blue where it looks like it's submerged in water, but I think it'll work for what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this to. So in addition to choosing certain pinks and certain blues to accommodate the action of our model and what we want to achieve with this collage, you want to think about light source. You want to think about the shape of the ephemera, the natural shape of what it used to be. Whatever this pink thing was, it looked like it was some sort of toy maybe. It was circular, it was biomorphic, so it goes along with the human body. I was using this quite a bit. It actually worked very well for this arm because there was some pink but blue, so we got that watery vibe going on. And it's very curvy, like the body, and I just like the way it came out. So it's just something you want to take into consideration when you're choosing your ephemera. You can choose anything you want ultimately, and sometimes that makes for a very interesting contrast. It doesn't necessarily have to be curvy if it's not curvy. Maybe go with it anyway because it'll have an interesting effect, but I do want to get as close to real as I can with this piece. That's just me. That's just where I'm going with this. So there are other little details that were going on in this area, which I cut out. I cut out the template. We still have our necklace to think about. I'm actually considering doing the necklace off screen and putting it on him, giving him a brand new necklace. I'm still thinking about it, but we have other details going on. We have other body parts, and we also have the bubbles or the water that's lapping. So I want to consider that, and I'm just going to play with that a little bit as well and start considering where my next cuts are going to go. This next pectoral muscle, I can see it kind of rising out of the water. So I think I want to do something like this when I cut. And I want it to link up with the other ephemera. So I think this is where we'll go next. The colors that I am choosing here, as you can see, they have a very, almost like the color of what you imagine a muscle mass might look like. So I'm kind of enjoying that. I kind of like the way that's looking, and I'm thinking about maybe going with this color next. I don't know. That's where all the fun therein lies. So, gonna get back to work. The nice thing about collage is the opportunity to layer. Just because you put one piece of ephemera down doesn't mean you can't apply another top of it, or maybe just simply remove it. I was playing with this section of blue, the section of water, and I was loving this glass piece that I shared earlier. I even like how the yellow matches the yellow on this portion of the body. but I'm not sure if I want to include that. It even has black that matches. What I love about it also is at the tip of the ephemera are rainbow-like iridescent colors that match with the focal point. And that's why I badly want to include this portion of it in. And it has the movement of water, so I'm really bent on including this. So I think I want to put it here atop this darker shade of blue and use this less interesting image of water. It's not even really blue, it's more of a gray, because it acts like a nice contrast, and it also has the dappling of light that I really appreciate. So I want to include that also, and I think this is the way I want it to look. Kind of like this, these are waves cascading off the body inside the bathtub. So this is a little more, kind of deviated a little more from what I originally thought I was going to do, and that's fine. Don't have a problem with that at all. But now I need to tape it down on the back, and it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, we have this area for sure with both pieces of ephemera. I can fasten it. It should be okay, and I can remove some so we don't have to cut through so much later. And I might need some later. I'm saving as many of the scraps that I can because I may need to revisit areas later that are related. And it's always nice within a collage to bring it full circle and to have other pieces mimic what is already there. And I think that's good. I think this is a good thing. I'm liking the way it looks. I wanted to put something dark here to indicate shadow, but I wasn't actually crazy about it at first. And now I'm much better with it. And then I realized too, there's nothing wrong with putting maybe a less interesting background down and then laying something upon it that's far more interesting. Now I had mentioned those blue stamps, and I'm really not sure if I'm going to continue on with them. They'll make their way into another collage, but not this one. And the reason being is I think I simply want this to be about the focal point. I don't want to remove anything from it. I don't want anything to detract from it. No, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And yeah, I don't know, I was thinking about this too. I liked this too. Is this better looking than our blue-gray? Because I taped it on the back like I did, that will allow me to remove it if I need to. No, I think I like this better. I just do. Okay, so we're going to continue on. We're kind of done with the water aspect of this. Not sure how I feel about this design. I'm not sure. I feel like it's taking from it. And if that's the case, and if I need to remove it, it's possible to remove ephemera from this technique if you want to. It's a little complex. First of all, you have to locate it. And I don't know if this is it. Is this it? So I don't want to damage anything. I don't know if that's it or not. The other solution is to cut it out. And I really don't want to do that. I think I would actually lay something upon it to get rid of it. So yeah, let's go ahead and commence. Still have our work cut out for us here. Going to work on this leg next. I think that'll be good. We have a lot of shadow, a lot of dark going on. I want to make sure I can see it. Should be okay. There's a lot of dark here. I may want to split that darkness. And I'm back to the pink because I want to see what's going to look good. I have this beautiful, it's like a lampshade, I think, in another image. And we still have this, and this is kind of shaped like a knee. So this might be very interesting right here. It's something you want to think about again. Something that curves like the body is biomorphic, and if you're working with a body, then you may want to aim for ephemera that looks like this, that mimics what you are trying to achieve here. So let us get back to our little blending and our organizing and our palette and see what we come up with. So this is where collage takes on a life of its own, and I don't get to make the decisions I thought I wanted to make. Remember, I thought about using this bend for the knee, and that would still look good, but I went with something a little less ornate. Not that that was terribly ornate, but I liked the way this looked. And it's simple. This part of the leg isn't really the focal point. I mean, it is something, and it is an important part of the focal point. But again, like I shared before, everything we do is to enhance the focal point, which really is the subject's face. Yet we want everything to look good. And I'm actually starting to wonder about this bit of water. I don't know if it's hard to read the body here. You know what, I'm going to complete it and decide. I'll make a decision at the end. But I'm liking the way this is looking. That's very collagey, almost like a quilt-like fashion to it. That's not what I was trying to achieve, but I like the way it looked and I'm okay with it. So we're going to go ahead and finish this shadowed area. I'm thinking to emphasize the fact this is a leg bending. I'd like it to be cut here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well and finish this portion of the leg. To share an update with you. I was off camera trying to find some nice light pink that would complement the thigh area. I found in the same Architectural Digest and Departures magazines that I was using to find my palette, a nice marbly beige pinkish image, because all of this really took about a whole page of ephemera, so it was a bit of a challenge. I ended up having to cut it up and share it with other colors. I don't think it looks bad at all. I'm actually kind of pleased with it. Now I have a background. If I want to, I can come in with other colors or other imagery, maybe those stamps I was thinking about, probably not. But I have a few more options. I have a background. I can leave it alone or I can do more with it. Now, if you've been paying attention, and I sure hope you have, but if not, I fell in love with this. Remember this glass looking wave thing, and I was all excited about the iridescence of it and how it was looking, and the more I looked at it, the more I didn't like it. I felt that it didn't offer enough contrast between the body and the water, so I came in with more simple water imagery and imagery that was dark, so we do have better contrast, so you can see the contours of the body. So I'm happier with it. However, that being said, that took me a while. I won't lie to you. A lot of that ephemera, oh, and also that checkered thing I had up here for the blue, which it was fine. It was cool looking, but it was bugging me. I didn't like it, so I removed that too, which meant I had to go underneath those layers and gently remove that paper from its adhesive and trying to not tear anything. It wasn't as bad as it sounds, it really wasn't, but it also was something of a chore. But I had to do it. I was not liking the way it looked. I am much happier now. I feel much better. So I'm going to proceed. I think I need another break. And I also changed the color of the navel. The navel had like a lighter color, something like this, not quite this, but similar, and I went actually with this darker magenta, a piece from this, and that also was tricky because I almost ripped the area for the groin. I'm like, I didn't want to do that. I may need something here to show that that's where the oblique muscle is. And then I got to work up here, and then the body will be done, and I can figure out what I want to do with the bathtub background or whatever it is we end up doing. So that's what I was doing off camera. Didn't mean to keep anything from you. I want to be as transparent as possible here on the channel. This has been a massive undertaking. most of these collages that I do in this fashion do take a long time. I am entering week 2 of the process, and that's because honestly is I have to do my normal job. I go to work every day. I wish I could be here every day and play with this. But when I left, or we last left, because it's been about a week since I've been in my studio, I just placed where I would like what I want to do next, so I can kind of remember. And I placed ephemera in different areas where I think I may want to continue, and I had this covering everything so cats don't jump on it. But I'm just trying to see, where I think I know what direction I'm going in. I was working on the arm up here because I know I wanted this rainbow area to be like this. And I had something here too. Oh, it was this. Okay, it's coming back to me slowly. Also, there's a little bit of water in this negative space right here, so I want to take care of that as well. I'm also looking at filling in this space because the area is very bland. I can get away with it, but I may want to put in other little elements to give it a bit more oomph, maybe. Pulling in this rainbow design again to perhaps reconnect with the other portion of it that I used in the collage. So I might do something like that. I'm just going to leave it there and see how that works out maybe. And I'm also wondering how much I want to torture myself and do the rest of the collage include what was in it, the tiles of the tub and the tub itself. I do want to include the tub. I think I should. It only makes sense. So I'm going to get back to work here. I hope I remember what I wanted to do, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this big part next. Something else I want to add before I get started back into time lapse is there is a lost intimacy that I get with pieces that I am not able to work with for a while. There's that separation, and I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind, but I have to get reacquainted with my piece. And you get, the zone takes a minute to get into. It takes about 20 minutes for you to really enter a zone when you're working creatively. At least it does for me, and that holds true, that little theory. But it does take me a minute, and I have to get reacquainted, and I have to try to remember what I was excited about, what I needed to do next. And I'm still excited about it, but it's morning now. I'm not a morning person, and I have to dive back into it, and that's fine. Although during the week, I was having other ideas for other collages, and I come back here and I still have this waiting for me on my desk, and I'm good with that, but it does take a minute to rearrange my brain and go back at it again. I thought that I was going to work on the torso, and I am, but I thought I was going to work on it first. Instead, I started working on these more detailed areas. I'm going to tackle the elbow in just a minute, but I went ahead and did this portion of the arm and the bit of water that needs to be there. I also wanted to show you how it's really important if you have ephemera that is creating a shadow and you need a shadow in something like this. So this was perfect. This image had a lot of nice shadow, so I just went ahead and added it here because obviously the light source isn't striking right there. He would be somewhat in shadow with the water. And then also with the water, I thought I just wanted the plain water, and I was playing with the image, and this was totally by accident and just something that I happened to see as I was working with the image and the template, and I saw these little baubles of color that match the color of the focal point. So I went ahead and made sure that they're in there somehow, and it really adds a little bit more to, again, the focal point. It strengthens the focal point. And this was totally by accident. I did not choose this water ephemera imagery for those baubles. I just happened to find them as I was doing the cutting. So that happens a lot with this type of collage, and really any type of collage. Something you notice as you're working, or something you believe wouldn't have worked prior, you play with it, and then you see that it does work. And that is one of the components of collage that I love when that happens. Moment of truth, we removed that big piece. It took a little time. Time lapse obviously makes things go way faster, but it wasn't fast. I went pretty slow, and I treated it like vintage paper because we've got a lot of little itty bitty pieces that we need to take into consideration. And also the whole image as it is, with just the packing tape to hold it all together, it's pretty fragile. It's moving very carefully. And I'm starting to not like this blue next to this area. It's kind of hard to see. I'm noticing it actually more so through the camera than anything else. So I'll get back to that later, focusing on this right now. So here is that template we've created. I'm going to put something here. But first, let's see if this is going to be a good option for our person. Any guesses who it might be? Let me know in comments. I'm going to remind you. I'd like to know. Okay, that's just me. I'm really not happy with that at all. I don't know. I'm not sure if I like that at all. Kind of, it needs more. We're going to hang on to this, of course. Very, very important. Oh, man. Okay, so I had my suspicions about this piece. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really want to use this because I've used it throughout the image. But let's go ahead and just take a peek. It might be okay. I obviously sound convincing, don't I? That doesn't look horrible. It really doesn't. I guess it looks okay. I don't know. It's not. It is not awful. It is not awful. It is definitely an option. And then of course we can, fill it in with other parts that might work. See, this very light part is, now it's kind of distressing me. I might need to change this part. I could remove this piece and see what it looks like. I'll just tuck it in real quick and see. It's a possibility. I don't know. Oh man, I'm a little bummed because I really wanted that big piece of paper to fulfill its duty. I'm gonna look at it one more time. Could try the blue. It's not what I wanted to do. Honestly, I wanted to kind of keep it with the pinks. Yeah, but this, for me, that's too much. This might work if we take advantage of the gradient that this paper is offering. I just don't know. We got that text in the middle, and you know how I feel about text. This might work. Again, playing with that gradient. Remember, we're going to be adding some shadow here because we have this area and that will help. So, and I don't know if I like this. This is bugging me. Oh my gosh. I didn't think that was going to bug me so much. And doing that, okay. But remember what I said before, I got to take my own advice. I can use this as a source of a background and build up and add other types of imagery on it. I don't need to rush through this. I already haven't been rushing through it. Like I said, this is the third time I've gotten to my studio since I started building this. That might be kind of cool. So there's no need to rush. I can think about it. I mean, as it is, I'm probably going to remove this. This is bugging me, guys. I think because the stomach area has so many blues that this blue is not enough of a contrast. This is great. This was like my least favorite of the water imagery. This because it has like a grayish quality to it. But then I have blues going on up here. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, then do I change all the blues? I don't know. But what I think I will do, I will give this a chance. But this, you see, I think for me, this whole area just seems so blah. There's a little clamshell, but I don't have too much going on in here in terms of imagery. Although I could play with it now and maybe have the clamshell right here, but no, I really don't want to. The blue gradient into the yellow. Now that, I don't want just that. I need something more going on. We'll figure it out. Figure it out together. I don't know. Well, that's the beauty of collage work, is that you can, come back and make changes and do what you need to do. Didn't really want to do any massive changes to this piece because it's just been so much work. I think I'm just going to stay with this, but I do want to figure out some other, because there's no contrast here, and that's just completely making me crazy. I've got to have contrast. If I don't see contrast, I really start having a bad day, as you all know. This is also a possibility. That doesn't look too bad, but I really wanted to stay away from blue on the body because I wanted the blue to be more so shown up with the water, but we see where that got us too. I don't know. I had originally liked this girl's face, but that just throws things off too much. I don't want to do that. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to time lapse and make decisions. The good part also about using packing tape instead of adhesive for most of this piece is that it is easier to cut. There's no wet adhesive that was holding the piece together, so coming back in and cutting was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. But nonetheless, I had to cut through layers of ephemera that was already there and some packing tape. I'm getting better with being heavy-handed with my packing tape, so it wasn't that grueling because of the feeling that overcame me, and I have to use this blue now for the water instead of the water images I used before. And I really liked those images. I liked those different blues, but it was bugging me. I think I wanted something solid because he's like a quilt now. He has so many different things going on, so, and I'm probably going to add things to him, so I got to keep the water simple. The water to me was detracting from what the focal point is eventually going to be. So I had that going on, and then you saw me come in with my trusty brush and Mod Podge, just gluing down some areas that absolutely needed to be glued because they were going to be separated from the packing tape, especially when I was cutting away those tiny pieces of blue. They were actually held together with integral parts of tape. So I was running into trouble. I was running into a chance that I was going to mess everything up and dislodge important pieces, and I didn't want to do that. So we have what I believe is more than enough of this blue. What I think I am going to do is I'm going to remove this red because I don't want the red in here. Ordinarily would be okay. And, you know, like I've shared before, I'm not big on text right now in my craft. So I'm not going to keep the text in here either. It's just a preferential thing. If the text worked, then absolutely I would keep it. But in this case, no. And I'm just going to cut the area that I know I want to use. I don't think I want this couch. Not sure about that light either. I don't think I want the light. So I'm just going to remove it. Take as much as I can in case I need it later. Take our model out. Barely see the model. Okay. Don't think I'm going to be using too much more of that. And there's actually actually I kind of like this light. There is a little bit of blue here that might be useful. I'm going to keep it until the very end because you never know. And this might make its way into another collage someday. So I'll worry about that later. And if I need that blue, it'll be there for me. So now we have some options, and I'm going to get rid of this little bit of text. Okay. Now we have a nice solid piece and probably more than enough. So we're thinking about this area because it is the largest area. Do I want to use dark water? I think we want to use dark water here because then he's really going to pop out. So we'll probably use that dark area for his bath. Let's see if I have enough to extend it into, I know it's hard to see with the black mat. Okay, that is actually looking pretty good. Yeah, that should be okay. Let's go ahead and commit. And while I do that, I'm going to cut away this area because I'm going to need it for the other areas of empty space. Looks like we got a good piece there. Yeah, I'm learning that for large areas like this, you need large pieces of ephemera to cover it up. I'm just going to put a little bit on because that saved me a lot. And it looks like, okay, looks like we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And then we have these small areas, but look what I did here. I did manage to keep those little baubles. I thought those were kind of cool. I managed to keep them in. This is the area that it's really tough to cut if you have to go back in and do something as drastic as what I just did, although I don't know if it's really considered drastic, but I had to cut through areas that have a lot of detail. I had to cut through them again, and I don't like doing that because it leaves me with like little shards of paper that look messy. And as it was, it looks like I cut a little bit too much off his hair. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I don't think it's going to take from it. And here is what I have left, the remainder. Let me just put this here. Maybe use something darker, or just like that. Oh, I have something dark right here. Seems a lot darker anyway. Yeah, it's definitely darker than here. I think it's okay. It definitely reads as water, and it reads as the same type of space. And that's what I was going for. Do I want it lighter? No, I think I want it to stay dark. After all of that, you know. That's really dark right here. That looks even better. Okay. So we'll go ahead and commit to that. And I'm going to do a little trim. So I might use this. I'll definitely use this. I'll have enough left over of this blue. I have enough left over of this blue that I could use that in another collage, and I might. Let's go ahead and get that down. I think that's right here. See, there's so many different pieces going on. I can't even tell what I have and have not nailed down. I think that's where the arm is. Okay, should be safe. Okay. Now, I was thinking, as I shared before, this area is kind of bugging me because it looks kind of plain to me. I still have this bit from this pattern going on, and I'm thinking about putting it here maybe. I don't know how to cut it though. I'm not sure how to cut it, if I want to cut it or anything. I like how the black line has been working very well for me in this collage. And I might want to use it here because then that delineates the body, but then we have this bit of wood that I don't want in there. That might work. It might just be enough too that I don't have to do too much more to this area. Just allow it to be what it is. Looks like I have something like this going on, and I think that might work, and I think I'm pleased. So I'm going to go ahead and commit. Take it down. Might be a little tricky later on because I may have to glue it also because it looks like it's going to get cut when I cut out the template. When I cut the image out, I might lose it. So I'm going to go ahead and tape it down really well right here, but I'm going to come back on the flip side of things and glue it down just to give it added protection and strength. Because we've just spent a lot of time on this collage, and I don't feel like letting pieces get crazy. You might notice also with these delicate cuts and this template, things it's hard to explain. Other pieces will come flopping out and it throws you off and it looks like you did something wrong, but you didn't, because this piece will come out like that. It'll flop out like this, and then you're confused. You're like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I didn't cut right, but you did fine. You just have to tuck it back into the template. And that happens a lot with these delicate, detailed types of projects. So my focal point looks like we're done with that. So the next question is for myself is how to complete it. Do I think about the tub? We have some interesting little designy stuff going on here. And then what about this tile? That's a lot of work. And do I want to do that? Right now, maybe at this very moment, I'm not sure. So it's really good at this point in the process that I take a step back, that I really consider what my next move is going to be. I'm not going to cut off too much of this. This is a little delicate here. Okay, but it's looking, I'm really pleased with the way it's looking, and the thing is the focal point is safe. And see, okay, here we have some flaps of paper. I don't want that. I want them to be glued down a little bit. Where is my brush? Okay, so I'm going to come in and make sure they're secure. Just a little bit of glue, not a lot. That was the other reason I kind of stay away from glue now, because I don't have to deal with that wrinkling. I have not been super successful with combating wrinkling with collage material, with magazines. I've run into a lot of issue with that. Main thing I learned is, take it easy. Don't use a lot of adhesive. It always comes back to that. Don't be too heavy. Just don't be heavy-handed with the adhesive. Take your time with it and put on just enough. And that takes practice, especially when you're a new collage artist. You may feel, I got to make sure everything stays in place. And you absolutely do need to make sure everything stays in place. But the truth of the matter is, you want it to look good as well. So I'm going to take a step away and take into consideration what my next move is going to be. I've reached a point where this bottom part is really bugging me. It keeps flopping around and we're kind of done. So it should be okay if I cut here. I don't like doing this. I usually, this soon in the game, I don't mind doing it, but I don't like doing this so close to where we're not done yet. We're not done yet, but I'm going to cut anyway because it's really bugging me and it's just a flimsy little bit and I can't take it anymore. So I'm going to cut it. Trying to find where it was and where I want to make the cut. Okay, so I'm just using the natural line that was there before. I just have to cut it because it's just bugging me so much. I'll do that. Okay. And then I'm using drafting tape to hold it in place because that's the other thing too. Everything is kind of moving around on me and it's just causing issues. Okay. Do another once over. Should we get everything? Just many layers of magazine and packing tape. Okay, not the cleanest cut in the world because there's a little bit of a mess here, but it's better. So you see, this is what's happening. My template is starting to come apart because I don't want to be heavy-handed with my adhesive, so nothing is being taped up here because I'm going to be using more. I'm going to be cutting more and I want to make my job easier. But the fact of the matter is the tools that I'm using and the technique I am using, it's not really allowing for that. So I need to make sure everything stays kind of secure. Take some of that stickiness off. And I've actually cut through some of this tape also that was holding other pieces in place. So that's something else to consider with this technique. The more detailed it gets, the more challenging it gets to complete it because you have to cut through so much. And I'm going to be cutting through this in just a second. Ooh, right here too. This is bugging me so much. I feel like putting packing tape here, but I'm just going to use masking tape for now. It's just a lot easier. So when I pick it up, okay, that's a little bit more secure, a little bit easier. Oh my gosh, my desk is so messy after these type of projects. But I'm liking how this is turning out. I can also do cropping in Photoshop, which is what I usually end up doing anyhow. So we have this portion of the tub left. Are we almost done? If we're almost done by cutting out the tub, then we're almost done. If I want to do more up here, I could. I'll have to think about that. But what do I want to use for this tub? Now I thought about this. I liked this imagery, but it might be too busy. I might need something that's more white. I got this wonderful Departures magazine. And I don't want to use just a plain white. I want to use a white that has some feeling to it, or a beige, or a gray. This actually has possibilities, this area right here. Okay, I'm gonna go off camera and start looking, and when we come back, I have something that I can work with. I returned to the collage and I cheated off camera. I went ahead and added some circular elements that I like. Whether or not they really go with the collage, I don't know, but I'm going to call it done. I think I'm finished. I know that there will be some playing with this in Photoshop in terms of cropping it and of course giving it a color background. But for the most part, I'm good. It's done. It's different. And as always, I had a great time. I thank you for joining me on this collage journey, and I will see you again in the next video.